Now we're live audio as well.
All right. Thank you, Zach. I'll call this meeting to order. Peggy, if you can do a roll call for us.
Ryan Mitchell.
Here. Present.
John Olinger. Carol E. Kern.
Here.
Catherine Wildbrenner.
Here.
John Hendricks. Okay.
All right, it looks like we have a quorum then. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from May 20th, 2020.
Do you need a motion or what do you want?
We do.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes as submitted. I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion's carried. And now we move on to next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This is the time and place and date for public hearing relating to Farmers Cell Company and their request conditional use permit for property owned by Ottumwa Housing Authority as they are leasing rooftop and ground space and desire to affix wireless radio and antenna equipment. Zach, can you fill us in on information regarding this project?
Yes. The applicant seeking to install cell service equipment on the rooftop of the Ottumwa Housing Authority owned property at 102 West Finley. This is a multifamily housing building that's well over 6 stories tall. The conditional use permit would allow the applicant to install equipment on the building as well as some ground level equipment. There's 2 things that city code requires that we look at for approval of conditional use permits. The first is section 38998 of the city code. These are the factors for conditional use permits in general. There's land use. In this case, the staff and the zoning or the planning and zoning commission looked at whether or not the nature and intensity of the operations are in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district, and they were satisfied that they were. We also looked at the impact on the area, and staff and the Plan and Zoning Commission were satisfied that the proposed change to the building or lot would not hinder the appropriate development of adjacent buildings, and that ground level equipment would be screened according to code, and that the visual impact of the rooftop equipment would be minimal. You'll see that there are attached to the application photos and rendering of what it will look like before and after equipment is installed. The code also asks us to look at bulk standards and residential setbacks, which are not an issue here. Architectural character, again, we'll refer to those concept photos that show that the building will have a minimal visual impact as a result of the installation of the material. We're also supposed to look at building mass and parking, which have no change here. There will be no adverse sustainability effects or adverse effects from artificial light, colored light, flashing light, or loudspeakers. And then according to section 38875, there are specific considerations for telecommunications towers. The first is tower siting. It's the policy of the city to encourage co-location with existing cellular towers. In this case, the applicant's engineer provided an engineer's statement that the existing inventory of towers are at capacity and that meeting the, quote, very high data usage rate, end quote, would require additional equipment at this height and at this type of location. We're also asked to look at tower setbacks. The setback will not be an issue in this project as it's a rooftop project, and the design will be aesthetically and architecturally compatible. Ground equipment will be screened from view according to the requirements of the code, and a letter was also submitted showing there would be no requirement for an FAA aviation light. We're also supposed to look at site selection, and we can refer again to the letter provided by the engineer describing why this location was necessary and appropriate to meet cellular demand. Siting on a multifamily residential structure is a higher priority than the other surrounding options that would have a larger impact on the area. I also, as this is the public hearing, I received to my email a public comment that I'll also read now. This is from Christy Ham at 114 South Ward. She says, I oppose the leasing of rooftop space and ground space from Ottumwa Housing Authority at 102 West Finley to Farmer Cellular Telephone Company Incorporated. No information has been given to the specific type of wireless or antenna equipment to be used, what is going on the roof, and what will be on the ground. Will the antenna equipment be an antenna? If so, what type of lattice, GUID, etc.? How much radiated power will this antenna emit? What will be the amount of RF electromagnetic radiation given off? And how many channels will be operating on this tower? Is it 3G, 4G, 4G LTE, or 5G? Scatter radiation falls on the ground. Wireless GPS technology produces constant pulsed microwave radiation. The cellular base station is constantly transmitting even if nobody is using a phone. Many people live at 102 West Finley. If the building is full, the number living on there could easily reach 100. That doesn't include any of the cottages associated with South Oak Towers. Sorry, there's an echo now. If somebody's got speakers or something that are going to amplify back and forth, they could mute the audio. Or else mute their microphone. I'll continue reading. Nor does it include people living in the houses around that address. Has there been any kind of environmental impact study done? Okay, did somebody join the call since we started?
Yeah, I joined in.
Okay, can you mute? I think that's John Olinger. Can you mute your microphone?
I don't have a microphone. This is my cell phone. I called it on my cell phone and watched me on the video.
And your cell phone has a mute on it. Could you try that? Because the audio was working just fine before.
All right, I can use chat. I've typed in my messages if you got chat there.
We don't
I'll
have
just hang up on the phone and watch.
No, we don't have the chat here. If you want to keep the phone on, then you won't need to use the computer screen because we don't have anything on the computer screen.
Okay.
Okay. That way we won't get the echo from both. And then I'll pick up
How do I
again.
get it on?
I'll pick up again on the letter. Has there been any kind of environmental impact study done? If so, I'd like to see the results. This is a densely populated area, more so than many neighborhoods. Nobody can make an informed decision based on the information received in this letter. Farmer Cellular Telephone Company is leasing rooftop space and ground space from Ottumwa Housing Authority at 102 West Finley to affix wireless radio antenna equipment. The word "is" in that sentence from your letter is a present tense verb. Is there something on the roof or ground now? That's the letter from Christy Ham. Peggy, have we received any other comments?
I have not.
I'll also get up quickly and check the door and see if there's anybody trying to get into the meeting. There's not. So that looks like the only public input. We'll also hand this over to there's some folks from the applicant that are here that might have some things to contribute as well.
Jack, are you okay for me to speak?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. Hello, my name is Julie Shebeck, and I am on this call on behalf of Farmer Cellular Telephone Company, along with Justin Isaacs, who is an RF engineer with U.S. Cellular, and Matt Graham, who is the construction manager with GSS for this project. Thank you for attending. The equipment, there will be 6 8-foot in length antennas mounted to the penthouse, and the equipment on the ground space, as Zach has mentioned. Again, as you mentioned, the main reason for this is that we have been reports noting that this area, residents, businesses, is in demand of needing better coverage for future as well as current. And that the existing sites that we have in the community need to be offloaded. They're just not able to provide the standards that U.S. Cellular has for their customers. It's not uncommon for us to look at tall structures in areas. This facility, the Ottumwa Housing Authority building, was an ideal height for us to be able to meet our goals. So that is why we approached them and entered into a lease agreement with them, knowing that we have got to do the steps and procedures for the zoning. So we have done, I did receive the letter in regards to the neighbor that had submitted that letter. We did supply an MPE analysis. We do these for every rooftop, and we are in compliance with the FCC standards. So I think if the board had any specific questions, I can refer them to Jeff or Matt in the event that I could not answer them. So.
I have a question. This is Kathy.
Yes.
I'm concerned, since this will be located on top of where the elderly people live, the low renter people will be living. What exposure, now I read through this attachment that Zach sent us out yesterday, and it talks about people who are working with the equipment and stuff, but what about the people who are going to be living under the rooftop of this building 24/7? What kind of radiation emit is going to be given on, and those at ground level living there? What kind of radiation are they going to be getting?
Jeff, can you respond to that?
Sure. So in regards to radiation, the report that we had a third party produce, they go and they look at the calculations for the antennas and the radio equipment that is connected to those antennas, and they have modeling that can show basically how the transmitters, emit, outward from the antennas in regards to safety levels. So there are safety levels for people who are trained to work in those environments, who, maybe they're tower crews or whatnot that have those permissions and knowledge to be around these antennas. So there's certain levels that those people can be exposed to and know how to work around. So that's one thing that report shows. And then there's a level that goes beyond that that's more of it's like a public level where it's showing that those levels of transmission are safe for any general public, maybe the instance in this case, people who live in this building at any level. There are no areas where there is an exposure limit that is above that what they call occupational or a limit that might be to somebody who works in that environment all the time. So any person who lives in a facility like this nearby is not going to exceed any kind of public not going to exceed any occupational type of signal level in that environment. So there are levels that are deemed safe and healthy for the general public, And that's why we have all these reports done and the calculations completed, is to show that we meet all of the safety guidelines set forth by the FCC and the U.S. government. We are a federally licensed carrier, so we have to abide by all those rules and prove that we design these safely, so that people can go about their their life there and not have any concerns with having any kind of overexposure or any kind of health issues.
So the people who live on floor 6, will it be any different exposure than those who live ground level? Or is it all the same?
Well, it's like akin to, a light bulb. If you have a light bulb turned on in a room and you're 20 feet away, you're going to have so much light exposed on your body, and then you walk towards that light bulb. You're 10 feet away, and you're going to have a little bit more light on your. It's the same thing with radio frequencies. So you're on the bottom floor, and you're going to have a little bit less than what you might have on the top floor. But it also depends on the antennas and your proximity to the antennas. The antennas do have a certain pattern that they put out that is outward. We're trying to cover an area that is outdoors and outside, as well as surrounding buildings and whatnot. So it also depends on that proximity and the angle, the distance that you are from that transmitting antenna. So I mean, in a general sense, the people on the top floor are going to see a different level than the people on the bottom floor. But again, it may depend totally on that angle and that distance away and the materials that are between. So, but at no point, and I stress this, that regardless of what floor you're on, any publicly accessed area is going to be at a level that is considered safe for any person to go of the general population. So that's how we design these, and that's how we comply with the FCC rules, in these situations, and that's why you see that report that shows that, and it lays that out, for reference for this very reason.
Can I ask one more question? How many other buildings have you installed equipment on that are housing facilities? Or are they just like office buildings?
We have numerous ones across our.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's not uncommon.
It's very common, of course, we live in Iowa. It's a little bit, more rural than, let's say, if you were in Chicago or somewhere like that. So you don't see them quite as often. But, you go to Chicago and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of buildings with these kinds of facilities on them. And they're your normal living facilities like this. It's very common. And we have them even in Iowa. We have quite a few that are mounted like this on building structures where people live. So yeah, it's very common across all the carriers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Board have any other questions or concerns? Zach, or Peggy, is there anyone from the public there?
No.
I'll check one more time. No, there's no one else from the public, and we received no other calls or emails.
Okay.
I move to close the public portion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Who seconded?
Carol Lee.
All right, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, public hearing is now closed. And I think we now vote on the issue. Isn't that correct, Zach and Peggy?
You would just need a motion and second to consider the recommendation. In this case, the Plan and Zoning Commission unanimously approved the conditional use permit on June 1st, and then you would vote on that motion.
Okay.
Zach, did the Plan and Zoning Commission get the same attachment you sent to us yesterday?
They did not have the radio frequency safety study. That didn't come up during their consideration, and they didn't have that, but they did make a unanimous recommendation.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the conditional use permit.
And who is that?
Carol Lee.
Carol Lee, okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, that was John Olinger.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or do we do a roll call? Just a point of clarification, Zach, do we need a roll call vote? Or can we just simply say aye?
It's not required, but since we are doing the phone call, we might want to take one.
I think that's a good idea. Thanks, Zach. Peggy, if you could do a roll call, that'd be great.
Sure. John Olinger,
Aye.
Carol Lee Kern,
Yes.
Catherine Wildbrenner,
No.
Ryan Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, it was approved. 3-2-1.
All right. Thank you, Peggy.
You're welcome.
I think we have, next item on the agenda is old business. Do we have any old business? All right. And then the next item on the agenda is new business. Peggy or Zach, do we have any new business to discuss?
No.
All right. And then the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move
Motion
to
to
adjourn.
Second.
Everybody. This is Carol Lee. Make mine a second.
All right. I think John was the first, maybe. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank